Hello everyone, I'm Nick from www.nextstepnick.com and today we're going to be talking all about NeoCab. Now, it's an interesting one for me. I didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I have. I do like puzzle games, and this to an extent is a bit like a puzzle game. It's all speech based, so for example I'm not driving here. What I'm doing is I'm selecting the options in regard to how to react to the character that's just got into the car here. I'm choosing how I want to interact with Liam, how I want to answer his questions, how I want to come across to him, because it's really about the psychological journey between people and the emotional connection between people that you just meet. It's a really, really interesting way to look at the relationship you can build with someone in such a short space of time. And some of these characters do recur as well, so it's about how you maintain those relationships, who you choose to maintain those relationships with. So we're playing as Lena, we're on our way to a new city. The reason being is a friend of ours we fell out with a long time ago, our best friend, has invited us to be a roommate again, and we're going there to sort of make things up. So there's a lot of different things going on in regard to what you need to track. So you've got your overarching plot, but you've also got your day-to-day earnings. You've got things like your journal, where when it comes to your updates in regard to like story beats, characters you meet, just thoughts that Lena has on day-to-day, they're kind of chalked up in there as well, which I think is a lovely touch. It adds to the feel of the world. But you've also got this, which is your map. So where I'm going now is to a charge station. So the cars are electric, and I'm going to charge my car here because you only have a certain amount of charge. You want to make sure you've got that in order to fulfill jobs and things like that. And the plot takes place around your day-to-day work. So you have a certain number of people you need to pick up every night, and you can pick and choose who you want to pick up. So we'll see the map screen in a minute. But you can pick and choose how much you spend on different things, who you pick up at certain times. You might pick up, for example, a client who is a bit more problematic than another one, but then at the same time you may find that there's a bit more of a story hook there. And there's all these different arching plots between individual characters. It's a really enjoyable journey, actually. You find that the majority of people that get into the car, they're all individual characters. They're not copy-pasted. They have their own voice. It's not voice acted, which is a shame. I would like to see some voice acting, to be honest. But they are all individual characters. They have their own traits, their own ways of speaking, their own little sayings and things like that. So here, for example, I'm choosing what kind of charge I want based on how much I want to spend. I've got my money up there in the top left, and that basically dictates how much I have for where I stay for the night. For example, I need to pay for lodgings, and also mini games and things like that. Sometimes I need to pay out for them, sometimes I make a profit. But here you'll see me choosing around. I'm going through, having a look at who I can offer a lift to. I've got a few different options here of people I can pick up. Now, there's this really interesting moral choice mechanic here. It's a bit like Papers, Please in that regard, in that you've got a star rating, you can see it at the top left. Now, to stay in business, we need to have 4-star or higher. But as well as that, we need to make sure that we're maintaining a high star rating, because that's going to get us better driving, better opportunities, more money, and also it's just going to be our general, how we're seen by the public. But then at the same time, there are sometimes moral choices where you might think you've made an incorrect decision, but you then get that 5 stars. So you'll see here, my driver rating is 4.9, and so my daily goal is 35 credits. I can't remember what the exact monetary form is, but you'll see that I've got that there, and that's how much I'm making, and how many rides I need to do for the daily goal. Now, based on how I interact with people in the car, that can either go up or down. So if I'm talking to a character and we have quite an aggressive encounter, then that might go down. My driver rating will drop. Like as you can see here, I've had a couple of good ones, but when you look at Griffin Goldman, for example, wasn't perfect, which means we lose a few stars. So it's a case of making sure that you increase that star rating whilst also doing what you think is morally correct. Like you might find that a character is saying something to someone else in the back seat and you want to say something about that, but then are you going to risk that because you may lose those stars? It's a really interesting mechanic, and when you've finished a job, every character will basically give you a rating back. So here we've given Liam a lift. He's given us a fantastic rating of 5 stars, so that means our overall star stats will either go up or stay the same dependent on how we've done. Now the problem is though, is that means that you do have to pick and choose. You have to make sure you choose the right things. So for example here we've got a call with Savvy, who's our friend, and it just seems very real in that regard. I think the world breathes and really grows and shows off its environment and its world building through these kind of interactions. So here with the text chat, and also here with this character, everyone is different. And just for a second, I'm not sure if everyone will have noticed this, but if we just have a quick look to the background soundtrack, every character, every interaction has its own individual sound. So you've got your own soundtrack to accompany these, and it really helps to build that atmosphere. It helps you to get into the mindset of these characters, and it's got this real amazing noir detective-esque feel to it. The world is vibrant and neon, but there seems to be something missing. It's this dark. You can feel the warmth of the cab. You really can feel that as you're driving around. There's this warmth of the cab as like this warm area outside of the cold around you. This really dark city that could kind of swallow you up if you let it. And I think it's wonderful. It's got so much in the way of world building. It's so vibrant and full of life, and you can really imagine living here. I mean, now we've switched to another character here who's given us this backstory as well, where we can choose whether or not we're going to help him out in regard to giving him money, or if he's going to keep paying us, and to what extent are we going to do that. And it's not always cut and dry. It's not always a case of, okay, you help a character, later on they'll come back and help you. That doesn't always happen. Sometimes there's more to it than that, and it makes you think. It really makes every decision feel like something that matters. It makes you feel like the decisions you make have weight to them. This hasn't got the issue of thinking, okay, I'm just going to do this, it's a good response, and therefore get a good outcome from that situation. It's not like that. That's not the case at all. It's a case of, with each character you deal with, your interactions are individual. Lena feels like a character that has her own thoughts. You can really get into her head and become her. You can interact with these characters based on how you've personally felt about how their trip has been, who they are as people. You can see that, like this little move here. He did the little prayer hands as he crossed the street. It just adds this layer of understanding to each character. Like, okay, I know this person now. When I pick that person up again, if I do, some recur, some don't, I feel like I have a relationship with this person despite only having a very, very short journey. And that's wonderful. It makes you question how you interact with people on a daily basis. And it's not, like I say, cut and dry. You could, for example, come back with something sarcastic and witty, and that person may pick up on that. They might not. It doesn't always... It's not got the problem of, like, L.A. Noire, the good cop, bad cop, neutral. It's much more than that. But the one issue I do have in regard to the game is something to do with the emotion system. So we're carrying a lot of different traits here. There's a lot of balls up in the air. We've got to think about our finances. We've got to think about the charge in the car, where we're going to stay for the night, the main plot itself, following out what's happening in the city. And we've also got to deal with all these individual subplots. There's a lot going on, and I'm really engaged here. I feel like the character. I feel like I can be Lena here. I can make her decisions. I can choose what she thinks and how she reacts with people. But the issue is you might notice now on this character here, Savvy's necklace, they've got this coloured necklace. Now this leads into the one mechanic I think is just a little bit too much. Like, it doesn't really... I can see where it's going, and it's great for the characters that aren't yourself. So for example with Savvy here, you can see the colour of the necklace and they correspond to how you feel. We'll get a bit more of that in a minute. And with the actual characters in the car, we get our own here. With the characters in the car, it makes sense because we have to learn how they respond to things. But as you can see here, I've now got a bracelet on myself that's showing my mood, and in the bottom left there, that radio will now appear, and it will tell you how you feel based on different interactions. Now, in theory, this is a great system because it allows you to sort of use different conversation choices based on how you feel as a character, based on where you are in this grid. And in regard to knowing where your passengers are, I think it's a good idea because it means that you have to really think about, okay, this character is responding to this with sadness, or this character is in a calm, quiet mood. This character, for example, is thinking something negative. So you can come back with an answer that potentially will cheer them up, will make them feel better. Maybe it'll be something that actually makes them feel a little bit worse, but it's something that they need to hear, and you can understand what you need to allow. But the problem is when you introduce that system for the character I play as, I'm not personally feeling these emotions, which means when Lena gets upset by something, or offended by something, or annoyed by something, or sad because of something, I'm not on the same page as her, so it jerks me out. I mean, for example here, we've got a character that said they're going to take a photo of a building and we don't agree with that corporation. I've clicked on what I want to say, but because she's annoyed, she's refusing to say that. It's redded out. We can't say that. It's turned red, so we can't say it. And that's a problem because that's not how I would react, for example, and that knocks me out of the immersion, really, which is a shame because in the majority of the situations, I feel like I can sympathise with Lena. I want to know these characters. I want to be on the same page as them. But when you say something, for example, or you have an argument with a character because they've said something that has offended her, or it's something that she's not comfortable with, or something that's made her sad, but personally I'm not, it means that I don't get to feel like I'm role-playing anymore. I'm kind of jerked out of that immersion, which is a shame because for the most part I feel very immersed. I mean, here, for example, we've upset the character in the back, and that red necklace makes sense because we can understand how we can work to make her okay or to cheer her up. But for myself, I'm not feeling that emotion. I feel like in real life we often feel emotions, but we're much more tactful about it. You know, you might be annoyed by what someone says, but you're not about to have an outburst over it. You're not about to say something aggressive just because you feel that emotion. We think a bit more there. You can do, but at the same time, you know, you want to make that choice yourself. And when things like this happens, for example, where you're trying to pick an answer that you feel like really encompasses how you feel about the situation, you know, you want to resolve that situation or feel closer to that character or understand that character's motivation, you want to be able to say what you personally would say. Like, there, I've got an option that I feel like would be how I would roleplay the character, and I'm kind of denied that, and that's a shame, because for the most part, I want to say what I want to say. You know, I want Lena to be a character that is me in this game. Like, for example, here, I've apologised to this character, but I still can't bring myself to praise this negative corporation that I don't like. And that's a shame, because I feel like I say, it drags me out of the immersion a little bit. And the game does so many things so well, I feel like it's a feature we don't really need. I'm already focused on the game, I'm in there and invested. And rather than bringing me in closer, it pulls me out a little bit, which is a shame. But in regard to the game in general, I would recommend it. I think it's fun, I think it's interesting, I think it really explores psychology and the emotive relationships between different characters, and it explores lifestyle, and it's really got this beautiful stylized graphical choice about it. It's got some really wonderful world building. The only thing I would change really is just that emotion system. You can kind of forget about it for the most part, but that's the only thing that really brings me down a little bit. That, and I think it would be great with some voice acting. But to be honest, it's a fantastic product that really, it's a fantastic game that just oozes style and it oozes panache, and this world just feels so vibrant and alive, and I would recommend it. I think it's a great buy. It's on Steam at the moment for I think £10 UK, maybe just a little bit more, but it's totally worth it. I don't think you'll be disappointed at all, and I think it really gives a great insight into psychology and how people work. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe if you did enjoy the video, and if you do want to see more content, please head over to www.nextstepnick.com. Thank you very much, and goodbye.